Hello and welcome to Pop Culture Shark. I'm Final Monkey.
And I'm Caleb.
Caleb, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Been kind of a busy, hectic week, so it's nice to be able to chill out and slow down for a little bit. Um, I I did watch the Amazon show Reacher over the past week, which was pretty cool. My only exposure to Jack Reacher is the Tom Cruise movie, and I'll be honest, the show is actually quite a bit better than it. So I'll go ahead and just throw out that recommendation right there. If you got Amazon Prime, the show Reacher is really good.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. Um, I'm doing pretty good myself. Been watching lots of Gargoyles. Me and my youngest son have been going through the series when we get a chance. So we just got through Avalon, so the World Tour starting. So we're kind of like on the second half of the series now. So uh, still an amazing series. Still a lot of fun to watch. And then I've just been watching StarCraft all weekend. So
Hmm.
big tournaments this weekend. So um, that's about it for me. So let's move on to news. We don't have a whole lot of news today. Last week we mentioned Star Trek 4 was in production. And we had kind of joked that, this has been announced several times. It's never going to happen. And apparently all the stars were like, yeah, no one told us that this was going into production this year. We're not signed up for anything. So that is like terrible business, terrible negotiating to announce a project and all these actors are going to be in it before you've hired them on and negotiated deals. So now they're going to ask for crazy amounts of money.
Yeah,
Um,
that kind of reminds me of there was a concert series that was announced earlier this year called "When We Were Young" Festival, which had bands like Paramore and I think My Chemical Romance. Pretty much every emo band except for Blink 182. They announced this thing. They announced this lineup, and then like half of the bands come out and like, yeah, we were not aware that we were playing this one.
right. Yeah, sometimes people jump the gun, and that's really stupid to do. You got to get all your contracts in order before you announce something. So
Yeah.
because that can really bite you in the butt if you don't do it the right order. So
Hmm.
cool stuff. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about one of our favorite topics, the MCU. We love the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh yeah.
There's been a lot of great films, and there's been some not so great films.
Yeah.
But it's just been really fun seeing some of our favorite comic moments on the big screen. But then sometimes they make some weird choices, weird changes. Sometimes they go left instead of going right, and it's kind of like, well, you really should have went the other way because there's some really cool stuff there. So today we're going to talk about the MCU's missed opportunities. Um, so Caleb and I kind of made a list. So we'll kind of just take turns going down it. So Caleb, what's one of your missed opportunities that you saw?
So one of my biggest missed opportunities was like an actual like real return for the Red Skull. Like I know that he came back for in um, Infinity War and Endgame. Uh, but I don't know. There's just something about Red Skull. Like he definitely felt like he should have come back towards like probably just around after Winter Soldier. Um, Now I understand why they were always so hesitant to bring back Red Skull, because Hugo Weaving had come out and said that doing the prosthetics took a long time, and unfortunately for him was not enjoyable, which I understand. I'm sure prosthetics of that magnitude take a long time, but
You know,
I don't.
I have to agree with you because it just felt like Captain America's story was, I wouldn't say rushed. We got a lot of Captain America movies, but there's a lot of stuff they just did not cover. And
Yeah,
Red Skull being like a constant threat that's just looming in the shadows was kind of missed. And I know a lot of people have mentioned they would like to see Captain America taking the Infinity Stones back and seeing him having to confront Red Skull again.
hmm
Like that's a cool missing story that we have not seen. Um, so yeah, I agree that for the most part we didn't really explore the villains of Captain America that much in the movies.
yeah,
So and Red
yeah.
Skull is definitely one that got the short end of the stick. So
Yeah, and some of these missed opportunities are going to be some that perhaps they could remedy in the future, but at this point, Captain America's story is kind of done, and Chris Evans is kind of done with the character. So we're really not going to see that reunion and rematch between Cap and Red Skull. So that's probably one that they won't be remedying.
yeah, I mean we are getting more Captain America movies with Falcon and Bucky. So who knows where they're going to go with those? We'll probably see. I would guess a Serpent Society and some of the other Captain America bad guys showing up, and more Baron Zemo.
Mhm.
Um, so we'll see. But yeah, it's a shame that Red Skull should just be one of those. Oh, I thought we killed him. Why does he keep coming back? Type situations. I thought he was gone for good, and he just keeps showing up. So
Yeah, he should be like on the level of Loki.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, so I agree. Huge missed opportunity. So one of mine is Ant Man and the Wasp. And you're like, we got Ant Man and the Wasp. Well, yeah, but Ant Man and the Wasp to me should really be. Well, first off, it should be Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne, and they should be founding Avengers. Um,
Yeah.
they are such a big part of that. And behind the scenes, part of the issue was Edgar Wright had an Ant Man movie in development forever, so he kind of had like that character all locked up, and they really couldn't use him in Avengers. And then at one point, Josh Whedon had Wasp in the script for Avengers, and they removed her for whatever reason. So um, I just think it's a shame that Ant Man and Wasp are not a bigger part of Avengers. And Ant Man himself, Hank Pym, he's a huge part of the Ultron story. So it's kind of weird making it part of Tony, because now if you want to use Ultron again, well, now Tony's gone, and it should be Hank Pym.
Right.
So So, and I know Hank Pym's a controversial character in the comics, from where he hit Janet when he was, I don't know if he was possessed, but there was something wrong with him at the time, and he hit her. So that's just kind of something that's kind of haunted the character for years.
Yeah,
Um,
and then they in Ultimate, they kind of just make that a part of his character.
yeah, and Ultimates is ridiculous what they they just go overboard. That's typical Mark Millar
Yeah.
writing. But yeah, I really wish that Ant Man and Wasp had a bigger role in Avengers. I like Scott Lang, I like Hope, but that's not Ant Man and Wasp to me. you know,
Right.
so I think that's a huge missed opportunity. So, so what's your next one?
Well, another one of mine would actually be another villain that we had teased towards the beginning of the MCU, and then kind of never paid off, and that would be the leader in in the Incredible Hulk movies. The leader is kind of, Hulk's arch nemesis, and they had teased the actor Tim Blake Nelson as as a the leader. Uh, and I was actually really looking forward to seeing his interpretation of the character because I love the actor.
So,
Um,
so I will say this is one you're probably going to get your wish with the
mm,
She-Hulk series. It seems like
right.
all the dropped Hulk plot lines will be showing up in She-Hulk, but since you've mentioned the leader, let's talk about Hulk for a minute.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Hulk
Just the whole
is Hulk
character.
is problematic for Marvel.
Yes.
The reason being is Universal has the rights to any Hulk movie. So if they make a movie with Hulk in the title, they have to share the profits with Universal. So that's why we have not gotten any solo Hulk movies since the Incredible Hulk. That was the last one we got, um, and that's why all the Hulk plot lines have just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's why they took like Planet Hulk and turned it into Thor Ragnarok, which is a whole. We'll get to that in a minute. But um, so that's an issue. The other issue is they've done Hulk's backstory like two different ways now, and I don't think either way has quite gotten it right.
Yeah.
I just like the classic Bruce Banner story where the blast goes off, he pushes Rick Jones out of the way, and he gets hit with the blast, like this nuclear blast out in the desert. It's really
Hmm.
simple. Um, it looks good on. It would look good on camera. It'd be very visually stunning to see that happen.
Yeah.
And I know it's a very '60s story of nuclear bombs in the desert, but I think it's really cool, and I think that them not using Rick Jones is a darn shame.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Rick Jones is great.
he is a great character. For those who don't know, Rick Jones is kind of like Hulk's sidekick. He's like his little teenage buddy that kind of follows him around, and eventually he becomes like Captain America's sidekick, and then at one point he becomes the host for Captain Marvel. Um, so he has like this huge history in the Marvel universe, and they just have not used him, and it kind of bugs me.
Yeah. And
uh,
then I'll go ahead.
so I think this one I'll let you talk about is the Hulk's character itself is
Yes.
way off.
Yes, yes. So I have made it no secret whenever I talk about the Hulk that I personally am not a fan of Mark Ruffalo's portrayal of Bruce Banner. um I don't know. There's just something like when I think of the Hulk, there's like a conflict between him like having to be super calm and not um and not lose control, and then he's always teetering on that line. And a hot take, I really enjoy Edward Norton's portrayal. Like that's probably the closest that they've come to the character. But at this point, like I don't know, it feels more like it's hard to describe it, but he definitely feels more like a plot device no matter which form he's in. So like when he's Bruce Banner, he just feels like a plot device for exposition or figuring something out. And when he's the Hulk, it's just a plot device for, we need a bunch of Hulk smashing. And unfortunately, the characters are very disconnected from each other. Um, and then I also have this I have this theory that the the Rousseau brothers actually don't like the Hulk as a character. This is just a theory. This is not based in anything. Well, it's based on something, but nothing official has ever been said. Um, but uh, every time they've made a movie that could have involved the Hulk in some way, in some major way, they always get around it somehow. So whenever they come up with Civil War, they had that excuse of not having to use the Hulk because he ran away in space um, because he took a because he took a jet, and apparently jets work in space.
Right.
Um, and then in Infinity War, they did this. The Hulk is scared of Thanos thing. That yeah. So Infinity War is a great movie. That's one of the things that like it wasn't like particularly explained well. It really was just an excuse for them to not have to use the Hulk. And then by the time we get to Endgame, they the Hulk went through this whole character arc, and now he's Professor Hulk, and we didn't get to see it.
Right. And
Oh,
it's bizarre because to me, the Hulk should be a curse. Like Bruce Banner's
yes,
like, oh God, I don't want to turn into the Hulk. I need to cure this, and I better not get angry because if he comes out, I don't know what he's gonna do. And we
yes,
don't get any of that in the movies.
yeah. The uh, the the closest thing that we get to the curse post Incredible Hulk would probably be in that first Avengers movie. Whenever whenever he turns into the Hulk on the helicarrier, that's probably the closest we've come to it.
Yeah, and that was largely Loki messing around with him. It wasn't, just him being angry. Yeah, so Hulk has been a mess, and I don't think they know what to do with the Hulk because they're like, well, we can't make a movie about him, so he's just kind of a secondary character that pops up here and there, which is a shame because the Hulk is an amazing character.
Yeah, and then they did the Black Widow thing, which I still don't get. uh,
Yeah,
I don't understand that one.
yeah, the relationship between him and Black Widow just comes out of nowhere. You're just kind of like, okay. I mean, they have that one scene in Avengers where she was sent to go get him, and okay,
Yeah,
it's bizarre. I
yeah.
think they're going to try to fix some of this stuff in the She-Hulk series. I know he's going to be involved in it. I don't know how much he'll be on the show, um, but I'm hoping that they will get to explore that Hulk world a little bit more. Maybe they'll get his character a little bit more straightened out, but I don't know.
Uh, the have you seen that short trailer involving the Hulk for the She-Hulk trailer?
I think I did.
One thing that I find interesting is, and this is kind of what I'm hoping for. This is what I've been wanting. Um, it looks like he's Professor Hulk, but his arm looks fine. And so, whenever he did the snap in Endgame, his arm kind of dissolved, and then by the time we get to Shang-Chi, he's still wearing a cast and everything.
Hmm.
Uh, but his arm looks fine in the She-Hulk trailer. So I'm kind of hoping that means that we're getting something in the middle of Infinity War and Endgame. Um,
Well, the Marvel's really bad about changing things that are in their trailers, so it's hard to just go by a trailer and say,
that's
oh,
true.
it may be they have not added that effect yet, or something.
Hmm.
Um, so we'll see. I also Professor Hulk, they screwed that all up.
Yeah.
In the comic books, Professor Hulk he's like a jerk. He's cocky. He's pretty awesome. and this Professor Hulk was just kind of like, hey, that's Mark Ruffalo. Hey, how's it going? And it was
Yeah.
just like, this is off.
I I know people love Mark Ruffalo, but I really think everything wrong with the character comes down to Mark Ruffalo. Like no
Yeah,
matter like even if you fix everything, like he's honestly just Mark Ruffalo playing Mark Ruffalo.
I agree. Unfortunately. Um, all right, so let's talk about since we're already talking about Infinity War. Let's talk about the Infinity Gauntlet in general.
Hmm.
This is probably one of my favorite comic series of all time. Um,
Fantastic.
and a large part of the story is Adam Warlock, and he's not in either of these movies. They set him up at
Right.
the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and then they just kind of said, don't worry about that. So Thanos really has two arch enemies. He has Adam Warlock, and before him it was Captain Marvel, but not Carol Danvers. It was Marvel, the original Captain Marvel.
Hmm.
They didn't do either of those, which is I understand they were in a rush to get Carol Danvers into the MCU. I really think if you're going to do a Captain Marvel movie right after Infinity War, they should have done Marvel and Rick Jones, set that up, and then have him show up in Endgame to try to help them stop Thanos. If you're not
Hmm.
going to use Adam Warlock, you should have used Marvel. Then you could have him die in the movie and transfer his powers to Carol or something. That's fine. But
Yeah.
and then I still have not seen the Captain Marvel movie, but I've heard that Carol's story is very muddled, like of how she got her powers and stuff, and it's just kind of a mess.
Yeah. Well, and they kind of play it off like a mystery, like um she's got like amnesia, and so she's trying to figure out what happened, but also at the same time, like if you haven't figured it out 20 minutes in,
Right.
uh and so really it's, to me it was just a boring movie because I had figured out the whole movie like 20 minutes into the movie.
To
But
me, here's your Captain Marvel trilogy. First movie's Marvel.
mhm.
He transfers his powers. He dies in saving the Earth in game. Transfers his powers to Carol Danvers. Carol Danvers trying to live with to his shadows in part two. She screws everything up, and Rogue steals her powers at the end of that movie. Then you go into part three of her trying to figure out who she is now that she has no powers, and can she be a hero again? I think that's a cool character arc, a cool story, and we're not getting any of that.
Yeah. Well, see, the problem with that is, in none of that makes Carol Danvers this all powerful character. What you're suggesting is just far too relatable of a character for her.
And this is the same problem that Star Wars had with Rey. They like made
Yes.
her invincible. She never lost a battle. She never really struggled with anything. She got to Luke and was like, "I don't need training."
Mhm.
You're like, "What?" And that was apparently that was one of George Lucas's big problems. And supposedly he demanded that Grogu had to get training.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
um,
I did read that.
yeah. So, yeah, you gotta if you're gonna make your character interesting, they have to go through struggles. They have to lose. They have to, you know, if someone just wins all the time, it gets boring really fast.
Yeah, and like there there's a problem with your character whenever your character is so like cocky and is never put in their place.
Yeah,
You almost, at this point you're getting me to root for somebody to put the character in their place, uh like in, was it Endgame, whenever uh they're like, we're gonna go fight Thanos. Well, what's the difference from last time? And she's like, well, you didn't have me.
yeah,
uh and like at that point, with how cocky that character is, like she should be completely bodied by Thanos, and then like, wow, this is like the first time that I've really been beaten. And so,
yeah,
uh, but it's one of those things where she was just introduced so late into the Infinity Saga that it was probably just going to be impossible to do anything interesting with her.
yeah. And so let's hop back to Infinity Gauntlet real quick.
Yeah.
One of the snap in Infinity Gauntlet actually happens very early on in the story, and it's almost like not that big of a deal in the comic book. It's just like, oh god, half my shit disappeared. Oh well, we got to deal with this other stuff because the world's ending.
Right.
And so the movies just kind of took the snap and they just focus on that. In the comic books, they're like this last ditch effort to stop Thanos. They gather the remaining heroes that are left after the snap, and they go in to stop him, and they get decimated.
Hmm.
He kills all of them one by one, and apparently we almost got this in Endgame. They just couldn't figure out how to get the script to work. The Thanos that was from the past, was going to wipe out all the Avengers in his timeline. And then when he showed up in our timeline, he was going to enter by throwing Captain America's head down on the ground.
That would have been so cool. I didn't know that. That would have been so cool.
Yeah, they could not get the script right. But we in Iron Man, not Iron Man, Avengers 2 or Age of Ultron, there's a vision of everybody laying dead on the ground, and that's Thanos killing everybody, and they just didn't do it. So that's a huge missed opportunity for me. Even if it's the alternate timeline where this doesn't really matter, just seeing Thanos go to town on everybody would have been so cool.
Yeah, I do enjoy Thanos's like character. I enjoy with what we got in the MCU, but I think Thanos as a character is probably one of the bigger missed opportunities, which we talked about whenever we went in a little bit more in depth in Infinity War. But yeah, just the whole thing with death and just truly how powerful he was. Because honestly, I don't think the general population realizes how powerful Thanos is without the stones.
No, I don't think they do either.
Yeah.
I've been seeing all these memes online about, well, Superman could have stopped Thanos. I was like, no, I don't think so. And yeah, I don't think people really noticed like at the beginning of Infinity War. I think he had 2 stones at the beginning, or just one. He was taking out Thor and Loki and Hulk and
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah, he's incredibly powerful. I don't think we've seen the last of Thanos in the MCU. I just think it's going to be a while before they use him again. But with them bringing in Star Fox, his brother, I think we'll see some more.
Harry Styles.
Yeah. Okay. Anywho, what's one of your other ones that you have?
While we're on the topic of the Marvel Cosmic stuff, I think that a missed opportunity really is the Chitauri, which was if you don't know who the Chitauri are, I don't blame you, because they only ever appeared in the Ultimates comic series, as well as the Avengers movie. Essentially, the Chitauri were used as kind of the big bad for not the big bad, but just like your sort of battle droids that the Avengers could beat on for the third act of the Avengers. And in the Ultimates, the Chitauri were actually just the ultimate version of Skrulls. But I think, and you could still do this, I think there is there's something there to like maybe connect Skrulls and the Chitauri. Like maybe the Chitauri are like a different sect of Skrulls or something like that. But
some evolutionary offshoot of them, or
right, exactly, something like that. But for right now, the Chitauri have only appeared in the first Avengers movie, and they are the equivalent to putties in Power Rangers.
Yeah, they are definitely cannon fodder. And so since you brought the Skrulls, they should be terrifying in the movies.
Yes.
They could be anybody. They're devious. They're completely evil. And again, I haven't seen Captain Marvel, but from what I've seen, that was not how they were.
No,
portrayed.
not at all. Not at all. uh, so you're aware that they're like not evil, right?
Yes, the ones that were shown in Captain Marvel are not
Yeah.
evil, and the one that we've seen in spoilers, Spider-Man, what was it, Far From Home?
Mm-hmm.
That was like a nice guy, and
Mm-hmm.
the nice ones should be like the rarity.
Right,
Like
right.
95% of them should be just absolute evil. And the other thing is the Kree are their I'm going to say natural enemies. They
Yeah.
hate each other, and I know they kind of screwed up the Kree also in Captain Marvel. They didn't really do the Supreme Intelligence. Like I think she was like a hologram or something.
Yeah.
Something
It's
dumb.
yeah, it's like however you view it, there's unfortunately a lot of this stems from the Captain Marvel movie. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I think they were
uh,
afraid to show the Supreme Intelligence. Like they're like, oh, the audience wouldn't understand. For those who don't know, Supreme Intelligence is like this giant blobby face in a jar that's made up of all the past dead Krees. Like their intelligences are all combined into the Supreme Intelligence.
mhm.
Uh, it's visually very cool, but it would be weird in a movie. I feel like if James Gunn had directed Captain Marvel, we would have gotten it. He would have been, yeah, sure, let's put that on the screen.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they, and they were too scared to do it once they did Captain Marvel. So
Well, think about this. They were too scared to do that, but then Bryan Cranston played Zordon.
yeah, I don't know. There's so many weird choices with the Captain Marvel movie. Uh, it's I know that plot wise it's a mess. I know that I don't know. I just think that it was kind of rushed. They were like, oh, we got to shoehorn this movie in between Infinity War and Endgame, and they didn't quite have a plan in place, and this is what we got.
Yeah, yeah. And it's I don't know, it's almost like there's merit to introducing a character in a crossover movie for them to eventually get their own standalone movie instead of trying to rush their standalone movie before they're introduced. Like, I mean, in Civil War, they introduced Spider-Man and Black Panther, and both very successfully. And then later on, they come out with their very good standalone movies.
Right.
And so I don't know, maybe like we shouldn't have gotten that Captain Marvel movie when we did. Maybe we should have just gotten Captain Marvel in Infinity War or in Endgame just as a new character.
Well, and I think I've mentioned this before in the movie, Hulk is the one who crashes to into Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum.
Mhm.
In the comics, it was Nova, or not Nova. It was it? Maybe it was the Hulk in the comics.
No, I thought it was Silver Surfer.
Oh, you're right. It is Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer comes crashing down. It's like Thanos has returned. We're screwed.
Hmm.
That's right. Yeah, I'm getting some things mixed up in my head.
I haven't
Um,
I haven't read it since junior year of college, but I'm pretty sure it's Silver Surfer.
yeah, you're right. It is Silver Surfer. But if you wanted to maybe throw Carol into that scene, just have Carol smash into the building, and they're like, "Okay, we don't know who you are," and then you
Hmm.
get kind of her story, and she's like, "Thanos is coming. We're in trouble." Um, but to me, that would have also been a great time to introduce Nova.
Oh man.
uh,
So
we
no
love Nova. Nova's awesome.
so my history with Nova is really funny. I love fighting games. Marvel vs. Capcom is one of my favorites. Um, in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, they released six new Capcom, six new Marvel. One of the new Marvel characters was Nova. I had never heard of him before, but just his play style and his attitude was awesome. And so he was one of the ones that I had to go like investigate, and that's how I found my personal favorite Marvel crossover of all time, Annihilation.
Annihilation is so cool, and if they would make a movie based on it, it would be amazing.
I think that's how you introduce Nova. Like I said, how you introduce a character in a big crossover movie. I think you introduce Nova in your Annihilation movie, and he's the viewpoint character.
Yeah,
That's what I would do. Oh man, I want to see him just completely like body Annihilus, for the Nova Corps. Oh man, I want to see that.
Yeah, and I think this may be someplace that they actually go once they get past Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I think Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has been delayed so much that it's kind of holding up their other cosmic plans.
Yeah.
So I think once we get past that, then we're going to see Annihilation or the Infinity Watch or all these different other titles, Silver Surfer, that type of stuff.
Mm.
Um, but Nova's a cool character. Um, it's a it's a little similar to Green Lantern, where they're kind of like space cops. I mean, you saw Nova Corps in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
It's that group, but he's the Nova Centurion from Earth,
Yeah.
and in Annihilation, all the Nova Corps gets wiped out. He's the last one, so now he's like the the law of the land in the universe. He's it.
Yeah.
And so he's dealing with everything by himself, and he's burnt out. He's tired, but he's got to do it because no one else is going to do it. And eventually the Guardians of the Galaxy form and start helping him with stuff. But
Hmm.
uh, he's a really cool character, very powerful character once he absorbs all the power of all the Nova Corps members.
It's like when the in DC reference, it's like whenever Kyle Rayner becomes the White Lantern.
Yeah, yeah, really cool character. I don't know why we have not. They've had opportunities to kind of introduce him. They could have done it just at Guardians of the Galaxy. You could just mention, oh yeah, you're from Earth. Yeah, we're thinking about adding them to our protection or whatever. Yeah, we're gonna put a Nova Corps agent out there.
Mm.
Something. They've had opportunities. So
Well, and their interpretation of Peter Quill is kind of Richard Rider already.
yeah,
Um,
I could see that.
yeah, yeah, especially with the Star Lord Gamora pairing,
Right.
which in the comics was Nova Gamora. Um, but yeah, it's so weird that so you know what they're gonna do. Like if we're going by what they've done in the past, we're probably gonna barely get Richard Rider, and they're gonna go straight to Sam Alexander.
Oh, I hate Sam. I don't know if we're gonna get Sam. Sam was very much pushed by Jeff Loeb, and because tragically he named it after his son who passed away.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but and they kind of pushed it really big, but I don't think Jeff is still with Marvel, or he's very much not in the same power he had at one time.
No, he is a problematic figure currently with everything that has gone down with the Daredevil series. um,
Yeah, for
but
those who
but
don't know, there's kind of been two camps controlling everything. Kevin Feige's been in charge of the movies, and then Jeff Loeb's camp has been the TV shows largely.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
so, go ahead.
but I don't know. Like I at this point, I even if the character's not popular, we're getting Riri Williams. And so I will never be surprised of like us getting it and them pushing an unpopular character because we are getting one of the most hated and problematic African American superheroes with her own TV show. Now, I'm not too familiar with the character post her initial run, but whenever I would hang, this is back whenever she was probably a couple years old. This was back in college. Whenever I was really into single issues and I would hang out at the comic book shop. But I would have conversations with other customers, uh, being African American, and they all kind of hate Riri Williams because the biggest thing was uh, yeah, you introduce your African American superhero, by stealing the suit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the fact that we're getting Riri, I would not be surprised if they were to skip over Richard Rider and go straight to Sam, in the same way that they skipped over Hank Pym and went straight to Scott. And how we're getting Kamala Khan so soon after Carol Danvers.
If they do, it's a shame because Rich Rider's way more cooler than
I
Sam.
know, I know. It's kind of like I don't think there's a DC equivalent to
Uh,
uh,
I mean, maybe. I
things.
mean, it's not really an equivalent, but it was like when Hal Jordan got replaced with Kyle Rayner.
Yeah,
But Kyle Rayner was older at the time. Was actually a cooler character.
yeah.
Um,
Like
yeah,
if they were to skip over Hal and go straight to Kyle, I'd be okay with it.
yeah. I it's frustrating. I don't know. They're pushing a lot of these no name versions of the characters, these newer versions, and the rumor that I've heard, I don't know if I agree with this, is that there's a lot of copyright fights going on behind the scenes where there's the families of the creators of those old '60s characters are suing. So Disney's like, well, if we use the '90s characters, we don't have to worry about this for another 30, 40 years.
Right.
So, and that may be because we're hearing rumblings that um, Steve Ditko's family and some of the other families are starting to want to sue for control of Spider-Man and stuff. So,
Yeah,
um,
which I don't particularly agree with. I do agree with the fact that um, Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby need as much recognition as Stan Lee has gotten. I've always been. I love Stan Lee. He seems like a really nice guy, but it seemed like a really nice guy. Um, but there's just something that's always been sour to me about he being the only one of the Trinity to really get recognition. Uh,
well, and that was largely because he was a self-promoter, and the other two were kind of quiet, standoffish, and he was out there preaching the word of comics, and but he was always self-promoting himself, and so he got that into everybody's minds that Stan Lee is Marvel, and
yeah,
so all right, let's move on to the next one. I'll go ahead and throw another one up there.
sure.
Um, we'll go with Iron Man. And you're probably like, well, why is Iron Man on here? Well, there's two areas of Iron Man. One is we never really saw Iron Man and his villains. We
Yes.
saw, Ironmonger in the first one was okay. And we got, what was it, Whiplash? And
Mhm.
then what was
Well,
the businessman that was in part two?
Justin Hammer.
Justin Hammer. That Justin Hammer should have been in the movies a lot more than he was.
He should, because Sam Rockwell is a gem.
Yeah, he's great. Um, so it's kind of like the Captain America issue where they didn't really explore the villains of Iron Man.
Hmm. And this is barring Mandarin. Like I've said before that I'm okay with what was done with the Mandarin, but there were so many other Iron Man villains that we just didn't get, or maybe weren't done properly.
And we'll probably get some of them in Armor Wars, but again, it's kind of like, well, they're fighting Rhodey, which is okay, but I really wanted to see them fight Iron Man. I really want to see them
Right.
fight Tony. Um,
I believe it's Ezekiel Stain
yeah.
is which is cool. Now I don't know if you're aware of this. The original plan for Obadiah in the Iron Man movies. Are you aware of this? That he was going to be around a lot longer.
Oh, really?
Okay, so well, originally, now it is no secret that the first Iron Man movie did not actually have a script. Um,
Yeah, it was a mess, and the fact that it turned out as well as it did, I think that was largely Favreau, right,
yeah,
that
yeah.
fixed
Hmm.
the movie.
Yeah, exactly. So what they had was they actually had what's called a scriptment, which is a much shorter script, and it's more like, well, this is the idea of the movie. This is what's going to happen in this scene, and this is what's going to happen in this scene. Well, originally, the main villain was going to be the Mandarin, and I believe it was going to be the main terrorist guy. That guy was the Mandarin.
The Ten Rings guy at the
Yeah,
end. Yep.
the main Ten Rings guy, and you know, it was gonna be kind of secretly revealed uh, that Obadiah funded the Ten Rings, but it wasn't going to be paid off in that movie. It was actually going to be a trilogy of movies, where in the third movie is when Obadiah would, you know, don the Ironmonger suit and kind of uh, be the big bad.
Right.
Now, and then when Jeff Bridges found out that he wasn't going to have a big suit in the first movie, he kind of got sour, and so they changed it to him getting the big suit in the first movie. Because I mean, there's no way they could have known how successful this would have been. So if Jeff Bridges wants his big suit, you got to get it to him as fast as possible.
Yeah. And that's a great character. Obadiah was. I've heard rumors you haven't seen the last of him. That's all I'll say.
No, I haven't heard that one, but I
I,
would.
I won't say where. But yeah, you may have not heard the last of them, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, and then we're, you know, moving on to Whiplash. Now, Whiplash was kind of just an amalgam of Whiplash and Crimson Dynamo. In fact, honestly, that character is just Crimson Dynamo with whips.
Yeah.
That suit is very much just the Crimson Dynamo suit towards the end.
Yeah. So
Oh,
my other big issue with Iron Man is a big part of his character in the comics is his struggle with alcoholism.
yeah,
Um, and it seemed like they started to go down that road with Iron Man 2, and they chickened out halfway through. And
oh
it's
yeah,
kind of like that could have been a really cool story of him actually killing somebody when he was drunk and him having to deal with the consequences. And it it's just frustrating.
yeah. Yeah, and it would have been so cool because it could have been such a personal story for Robert Downey Jr.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, with
oh man,
his past struggles and the stuff he's gone through. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, like it could have been fantastic. And of course, whenever you deal with his, you know, addiction, one of the biggest tragedies in the Iron Man comics was, you know, they did Demon in a Bottle,
hmm
and then maybe like 50 issues later, you got to deal with the relapse.
yeah.
Um,
And apparently, I heard he's relapsing again currently, and it's
yeah,
kind of like, okay, Marvel. I understand that addicts relapse, but
mhm.
maybe come up with some new stories.
Right, right, right. But yeah, I think what they did with Iron Man was I'm not disappointed with what was done with the character in the MCU, but there's definitely like there's so much you can do with the character that, you know, they're bound to leave some stuff out.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
All right. Do you have another one, or I've got a few more if you don't have another one?
I have I have a couple more. Uh, we'll skip that one. I was gonna bring up more Baron von Strucker, but honestly, that can just be put in with the Red Skull thing.
Yeah, same
Um,
thing. Yeah.
yeah. Let's go with uh, the Ravagers.
Okay.
uh, because with everything that's going on with James Gunn at Marvel and his relationship being strained with the company, I doubt we're getting that payoff.
Yeah, it seemed like they were going to do. I mean, it still seems like they could really do an MCU series. But I think if James Gunn is not involved, you're not going to get all the actors on board. Like, I don't think Sylvester Stallone would do it
Hmm.
if James Gunn is involved. And we know that James Gunn's talking about doing a second season of was it Peacemaker.
Hmm.
So it seems like he's going to be tied up over there and not be doing more Marvel. We'll see. I mean, he could have such a great time doing Guardians of the Galaxy 3 that he changes his mind. But at the
Sure.
moment, we don't. It doesn't seem
Yeah.
likely.
Yeah. I would say probably the only actor that's like guaranteed to come back would probably be Miley Cyrus.
Right.
Who else was there? Was Michelle
Uh,
Yeoh one of them?
maybe. Um, she might have been, what's the character name? Nikki or something. I can't remember
Yeah,
her name.
I.
No, Martin X is the guy from Smallville.
Mhm.
Michael Rosenbaum, is that
Michael
him?
Rosenbaum. Yep.
And he had Charlie 27. Ving Rhames, I think it was. Somebody.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, and you could use that as an excuse to get more Yondu, which uh, Yondu is such an interesting uh, case study. We'll call in in the MCU because that character was kind of just a one-off. Who the heck is this character? Nobody in that first movie, and then you really don't start to fall in love and like become a fan of this character until halfway through the second movie. And like,
Right.
wow, this character's really interesting, and I want to see more. Oh no, he's got now. It's a great sad spoiler. Great, sad, very emotional death. He's got the best um, dying breath ever. Um, but yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to like, I don't know. They went to Yondu's funeral and they go off to have this adventure, maybe tying up some loose ends for Yondu, and then we could get like flashbacks of more Yondu.
Yeah.
Uh, no,
It'd be
I
cool if we got like the Ravagers, just a flashback story of how they had their falling out with Yondu and all that. I mean, I kind of went over that in the movie, but still, just seeing more of them together. Maybe the plot line could be them finding major victory. Um,
yeah,
for those who don't know, Major Victory is an astronaut that got stuck and like 1,000 years, and then he's kind of unfrozen in the far future, and he finds Captain America's shield and stuff. And really fun character, really convoluted character, but that's kind of the easiest way to explain him. Um,
yeah.
yeah, they can explore him, and I guess Sylvester Stallone was Starhawk, so um, which is another complicated character. um, yeah, I got that Guardians of the Galaxy guidebook like a couple years ago, and you get to the Starhawk section, you're like, "What am I reading? This is insanity."
Oh man, sometimes those guidebooks make things more confusing than if you were to
Well,
just look it up like and I mean like in a good way, like you get the guidebooks to like get your quick fix of like who this character is, and then you read it, you're like, okay, so there's no possible way for me to understand this character unless I read this
it's
character.
like trying to understand Cable. You're like, "What?"
Oh my gosh, they
Yeah,
I think the best 5-second introduction of Cable is in the Deadpool video game where they like briefly go over everything in 5 seconds and you don't understand any of
that's funny. I think part of the guidebooks is they're taking the works of several different writers, and the writers have been changing the story over and over, and they're trying to make it one cohesive thing, and it just does not work.
Yeah.
So, all right, let me throw another one up here. You could argue they haven't really been in the MCU yet, that the TV show doesn't count, but that would be the Inhumans.
Oh man.
The Inhumans were always these characters that would pop up in the comics. I was like, who are these people? I don't care about them. And then I read the Inhumans limited series, and it was amazing. These characters are. It's almost hard to relate to them because their whole society is very not human, like it's
Yes.
inhuman. Uh, but it's this whole royal family and just I mean they literally have like a caste system with slaves and stuff. So you're like, oh, these are heroes. They have slaves, and
Mhm.
um, but it's a fascinating story. I don't think they can handle a. I don't think you can just do a solo film out of the gate with them. You would have to introduce them like in a Fantastic Four movie, and then explore them in their own movie or a TV show. But they've already screwed it up so bad on the ABC show. And I guess we could tie this guy into it also. Um, Iron Fist was the same thing. They just kind of screwed up the TV show and kind of ruined the character.
Yeah.
And
What?
this is a fascinating character. You could do just a sprawling epic like this Mortal Kombat type tournament with him. It would be awesome with all these different characters and cities getting involved, and they just kind of ruined it all.
Well, and the funny thing is about both of these characters and or sets of characters, they royally screw it up, and then they come back with basically the same thing, but like a little bit better. So like they screwed up Iron Fist so bad, but then they come back with their equivalent Shang-Chi, uh, and Shang-Chi is just like this really interesting character and very I mean it was just a great movie. I love the movie. And then in Humans, they kind of tried it with this whole society like above humans thing. They try to do it with Eternals. Now Eternals, um, it's not as bad as in Humans, but I definitely was not a fan. So they might have just a problem with like these secret society of super people type stories. Like maybe this is just something that they struggle with.
And
Uh,
so again, this is probably something that can't carry its own movie. They can pop up in a Fantastic Four movie here or there, and then if you wanted to just do like a quick Disney Plus series, kind of exploring some more of the world, you could. But I don't know if Inhumans, especially, I don't know if they could support their own film.
yeah, yeah,
It seems to me that the characters that historically in comics cannot maintain a series make the worst movies. We saw this with Eternals. Inhumans historically has not had much luck carrying a series.
hmm yeah. I am. So for me, missed opportunities. For me, Inhumans isn't one of them because that miniseries is the only good thing that I've read from the Inhumans. Everything else that has ever involved the Inhumans, I just really have not liked. In fact, that there's that period where I think I'm trying to remember who it was. It might have been Perlmutter, but there was kind of like this
With
anti
Pearl Mutter, yeah.
yeah, the anti-mutant stance, and so we were kind of just like we were pushing the Inhumans as if they were the X-Men in the 90s for like
The issue was Fox owned the rights to X Men, so like Perlmutter did not want to give them any more promotion in the comic books, which was stupid.
yeah,
And so they kind of buried the X Men. We're trying to push the Inhumans. The characters have never
yeah,
really caught on, and they never did
yeah.
catch on.
Oh man, I think the funniest thing about the Inhumans versus X-Men story arc is it's so clear that they're trying to um, display the Inhumans as the good guys. Um,
Is that the series where Cyclops gets killed by a cloud or something?
yes.
Okay.
um, well, it's the series where in the first issue Dazzler completely bodies Black Bolt, and it's awesome. But no, it's the first issue is whenever the mutants are going around just kind of destroying all the Inhumans, and I'm like, yeah, so it's over. Oh, that's just the first issue. Oh, the Inhumans are the good guys, and they're going to come back. When in actuality, I'm rooting for the X-Men all the way.
Yeah. So earlier you said that Inhumans only had one good story. I'd counter that. They have two good stories.
Okay.
I'd bring up War of Kings also. That's kind of a fun period where they're involved with the Guardians of the Galaxy and Shi'ar Empire.
Okay,
Um,
yeah. Not familiar. I'll have to check that one out. I'm not familiar with that one.
Basically, there's a assassination attempt on the Leandra. It involves Vulcan, Cyclops and his brother, him trying to take over the Shi'ar Empire. The Guardians of the Galaxy get involved, not the Guardians. The Inhumans get involved because of their connection with the Kree, and then the Guardians get involved. It turns into a big brouhaha. There's There's a funny scene with there's a character in Inhumans. What is his name? Max the Mad or Maximus the Mad?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's usually the villain of the Inhuman stories. And in this point in history, he's actually cooperating with the Inhumans, and he meets Groot, and he's insane, but he's having like full conversations with Groot. He's like, "Y'all can't understand him," and he's just having all these conversations. He goes, "Yes, my liege." He's like, "Well, Groot's a king, and you know we should all be his servants," and he's just going on and on about Groot. It's hilarious. So, um, yeah, Inhumans, it's a tough concept to bring to the screen. Um, Iron Fist deserves better. Um,
We don't even in our house we don't even call it Marvel's Iron Fist. We call it Marvel's Ward because Ward Meacham was like the most interesting character, and that Iron Fist subplot was just bringing it down.
yeah. So I've got one left. It's just kind of a. I don't have anything particular, but we'll just throw him up here, and that's Spider Man.
Yes.
Um, it was weird that they kind of skipped over the whole Uncle Ben thing, but I think ultimately it worked by kind of making Aunt May that by the end. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, huge spoiler. Sorry.
No.
Whoops.
It has been 2 months at this point.
Yeah. Um, but they made some odd choices with the Spider-Man in the MCU, and a lot of it. If you, I don't have any proof of this, but it seems like Marvel's like, oh yeah, we'll do Spider-Man, but we're going to do it in a way that if this deal ever falls apart, you cannot use any of these characters.
Right.
We're gonna make Michelle so different from Mary Jane that if we broke apart, you're like, oh, we want to use Michelle, and we'll go, where's she at in the comic book? She doesn't exist in comics. You can't use her. Or here's a hot Aunt May. Well, where's she at from the comic books? You can't use her. I think they did everything in this weird way where it's like, oh, these are all unique to the MCU. So if you ever try to
Yeah.
divorce from a Sony, you can't use any of these characters at all.
Right, right. And then Ned being so Ned Lee is not the Ned Leeds of the comic.
No,
Uh,
no.
he is Gank from Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Um, no, I mean MJ is one of my biggest missed opportunities. Actually, that's because like I love this party girl who hides all this insecurity and this broken home, and so that's why she's this party girl, just to cover all that up, and um she's got all this confidence, but it's really just a fake confidence. Like my favorite Mary Jane Watson moment in comics, in the 90s show, in Spectacular Spider-Man is the whole time like Aunt May is trying to set up Peter with Mary Jane, and he's just like, no, no, I don't want to be set up, blah blah blah. He finally says yes, opens that door, and he's like, "You're Mary Jane Watson," and she says, "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot."
Yeah.
I love that line. We have never gotten it on film, and I think the confidence of Mary Jane is just a missed opportunity.
And there's been some speculation that we may still get Mary Jane, like a different Mary Jane. I don't see them doing that. But I've
No.
heard people asking for that, and I don't know. I think the audience has built up so much of Zendaya that they're like, oh yeah, we really like this character now. We really want Peter to be with her, and if you introduce this other character, they're just gonna be like, no, we don't like this character.
Yeah. No, no, and I like her too, but I think like after spoilers, what happened in No Way Home, like you either got to just never bring that character back, or you have to wait several movies to bring that character back.
Exactly.
So that way there's like this. If they bring that character back in the next movie, there is no impact to No Way Home.
they will.
I know.
I'm with you. I think next movie it should be like a whole new group of friends. If you
Oh,
want to do Gwen Stacy, if you want to do Harry Osborn and Deb Whitman and whatever, just bring a whole new cast in.
yeah, I think that this has always been my pitch. I think that what you do is you make Empire State University not a university, but like a sort of New York community college, and that's where he
Hmm.
meets Harry, and that's where he meets. I wouldn't go with Gwen. I'd actually want to go with Felicia Hardy,
Yeah,
and so that kind of becomes his, and so Felicia Hardy's kind of his new um, love interest, and then that's whenever you bring in like the conflict of, well, this is someone I care about, but also this is an enemy I have to fight. Um, and so like I think that the new group of friends, that's like because they've always said the high school years, the college years, and like the adult years. I think if you're gonna bring back Michelle, you bring her back in the adult years, uh,
yeah,
and and you just let Peter kind of rock out with the new friends for his college years.
yeah. I think you go like to movie six. You don't bring up MJ or Ned again. Then you bring in the Hobgoblin. Have that moment where it's unmasked, it's Ned, and it's just like,
Hmm.
oh crud, what? And then it kind of gets him going. Well, what happened to MJ? And then he finds that MJ's with somebody else, Harry
Hmm.
Osborn or whoever, and it kind of hits him really hard. Like, oh crud, I really should have went after her, you know.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, you gotta let that build for a few movies. You can't just uh, rush in it. But we'll see. I think that I've heard that in real life they're actually a couple, Zendaya and Tom Holland.
yeah. Which
So I could see
all
Tom Holland pushing for. Oh no, I want Zendaya to be in the next movie.
Yeah,
We'll see.
yeah. Which
Um,
which always happens with the with the
yeah,
Spider-Man couples.
yeah. Well, that's movies in general. If you're a couple in a movie, you're probably gonna become unless you can't stand each other, you're gonna become a couple in real life.
Yeah.
Um, all right, you got any other ones? All right, I think we've covered most of them.
Yeah, that was kind of I had a couple small ones, but
Oh
honestly, that
no
that
no no,
was
we do have one more.
what's
I'm
up?
sorry.
Oh, duh. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
No, there's so much.
yeah, this is kind of a big one. Uh, Thor 1 and 2 are one type of movie, and then you get to Thor 3, and they've been set up this
Yeah.
Ragnarok, and it kind of turns into this wacky Planet Hulk movie, which is it's a fun movie, but it's not Thor 3.
Right.
And the things they were setting up at the end of part 2 with Loki on the throne and stuff, a lot of it just doesn't really pay off. It should have been like when he returns to Asgard, everything's falling apart because Loki's been in charge, and we
Yeah,
don't
like
really get that.
yeah, I wanted Thor to return to Asgard. I'm sorry. Yeah, I wanted Thor to return to Asgard, and everything is like so messed up because Loki just has no idea what he's doing.
And it could be that maybe there was something that Odin was keeping in check, and Loki hasn't been keeping in check, and maybe that's what releases what's his name, Sortor or whatever,
Surtur.
yeah, the fire demon thing, and
Yeah.
maybe that's what destroys Asgard is that Loki wasn't doing all the stuff that Odin was doing, and
Yeah.
he kind of sets all the stuff into motion, and having Loki admit that he needs Thor to come rescue him, I think, and then one of the other issues with the Thor movies is they haven't really set up all the other god characters like
Yeah.
Baldur and all these other characters that should have a big role. The trio, I can't remember what they're called.
The Warriors 3?
The Warriors Three. They've been popping up here or there, but they're never really set up. And Lady Sif. I mean, if they
Well,
had set them up a little bit better and then have them all tragically die
I might have
in Ragnarok,
cared.
yeah, the Warriors Three death and Ragnarok happened so quick, and you're kind of like, ugh. Well, if that happened more like have them in like the whole movie, and then towards the end they die, like this final battle with Hela, that would have been cool. I
Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
well, and I think the honest trailer said it best. Like character so uninteresting that we replaced an actor and you didn't notice.
Yeah, you did not notice. Yeah.
But yeah, like Thor is a character that they've ironically they put Thor and Hulk in the same movie, and they kind of deal with the same issues with the character, like not knowing what to do with this character.
So I just thought of this: Thor 1 and 2 are almost too serious and not fun enough, and Thor 3 is too fun and not serious enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Um,
so
well, and like Surtur is such a cool character in
yeah,
oh, what's his name?
Walt Simonson's run.
Walt Simonson's run. Uh, and they just don't. He's a plot device
He's just a
in
joke.
Ragnarok.
He's
Yeah,
just a joke in the beginning.
um, but yeah, and then I mean, like Hela is not even Hela. Like honestly, I've always thought that Hela was a lot more like Angela.
Yeah.
Uh, which is funny because that means that Thor Ragnarok is the most recent thing we've gotten out of the Spawn movie.
For those who don't know, Angela was a Spawn character that I think Neil Gaiman created. Someone created. I think it was
believe
Neil Gaiman. Yeah, and he had a lawsuit with Tom McFarlane about who owned the character, and he got the rights, and then he gave the rights to Marvel. So Angela was retroactively made to be Thor's long lost sister. She's like an angel warrior or something. I don't know too much about her.
I mean, honestly, the only thing I know about her is the stuff from Spawn and the fact that now she's Marvel character.
And they made her a Guardians of the Galaxy for some reason when Guardians of the Galaxy became horrible in the comics. But that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
Or live stream. Yeah, so I enjoy Ragnarok, but it's not the movie we should have got. It should have been a separate movie. I don't know what to expect from Thor: Love and Thunder. That's a heavy topic, and are they going to go super silly, or is he going to find the right balance? I don't know.
Well, and you mentioned something that that I didn't think about. The fact that we haven't set up any other god characters. They're bringing in Gore the God Slayer, and I'm not going to know who any of these gods are.
Well, I'm curious if he's just going to show up and instead of attacking the Norse gods, if he'll attack like the Roman gods, like Zeus and stuff. Maybe that's how you bring in Hercules and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would do. Is kind of you don't have to introduce Hercules. Just introduce the fact that there's the other set of gods, and we'll deal with that later. Then you can do Hercules later.
Yeah.
So all right. I think that pretty much covers everything. So let's move on to our final topic. He made me do it. This is the part of the show where we take turns making the other person watch or read or play something that they've never experienced before that we think they would like.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, Caleb was asked to watch Blazing Saddles.
Yes, I was.
Caleb, what did you think of Blazing Saddles?
So Blazing Saddles was I have a lot of feelings on this film. Now I believe I've only seen I've seen 4 Mel Brooks movies at this point. I think I like this one more than Men in Tights, but not as much as Young Frankenstein or Spaceballs.
Okay.
A lot of the I think Quentin Tarantino has desensitized me to a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because even going into it, the only thing I knew about it, and unfortunately, it's even having watched the film, the one thing I knew about it was the funniest thing that I thought was in the movie, which was whenever they are on the hill and they get the KKK members to come over, and he's like, "Hey boys, look what I've got," and then he says, "Where the white women at?"
So for those who don't know, Blazing Saddles is a movie about a a very racist white town who gets a black sheriff,
Yeah.
and
I believe
uh,
it's the like the so that's Mel Brooks who played the
the
governor,
Indian.
right?
No, oh yeah, no. It's been a while since I've seen it. Harvey. I get him. I get Harvey Korman and Harvey Keitel mixed up. Harvey. I think it's
No,
Harvey Korman.
no, it is Harvey Korman, but he didn't play the governor. He played the guy who was manipulating the governor, but the governor was Mel
Oh,
Brooks.
you're right. You're right. You're
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Um, but so the guy the reason that he gets that this racist town gets a black sheriff is because they want to like take their railroad tracks through the town, and so they're trying to chase them off, and the
Right.
best way to chase them off is to give them a black sheriff.
It's it's a really funny movie because all the black characters are all way smarter than the white characters.
Yes, oh man,
Extremely smarter.
that that first scene uh, where they're singing.
Yes.
That was really fun. Actually, I think the because I actually got my brother to watch this one with me because we had always talked about watching it. We had never seen it, so I got him to sit down and watch it. He wasn't really paying attention at first, but where he really starts paying attention and is because I died laughing. We had to rewind it. Was was Gabby Johnson,
Uh-huh.
which is the mumbler guy. um, he gets up and he says his thing, and you have no idea what he said, and they're like, "I think that was very well said, and I think he said exactly what needed to be said."
I like the part, and I can't remember the line. Like I said, it's been a while. Where priest is like, "God's gonna protect you," and blah blah blah, and they shoot the Bible on his head. He goes, "You're on
Right,
your own."
you're on your own. That's right. Oh man, it's uh, and so like so, the reason I say Quentin Tarantino's kind of desensitized me, and I really came into this, and as I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, I can kind of there's a little bit of Django going on here, because you've got a black man and a white man, kind of teaming up, and with and Gene Wilder's always great. Uh,
Amazing.
um, but like so many so many N words,
Yeah.
which I mean, like that's of the time. I think it's within like the first 5 minutes. There are a total of three unique slurs. like there came a point where we were like, okay, so how many unique slurs, and then we just stopped keeping track.
Yeah.
Um, but no, this was a really funny movie. I had never seen it before. And then they do so I myself am not a fan of Monty Python.
Hmm.
Um, like I like some of the skits, but like, I people have always talked about Holy Grail, and then I finally sit down and watch Holy Grail with the friend, and it's not my thing. Um, I think this movie does um, the cop out way better.
The cop out ending.
Yeah, the cop out ending. Um, now I get the joke in Holy Grail, and it is really funny. The cop out, I get it. But like with them like literally breaking the fourth wall onto another movie set.
Well, the thing about Monty Python Holy Grail's ending is they literally ran out of money and couldn't finish the movie, so they had to do
Right,
something.
right,
So
right. Um,
yeah, the end scene is just of
hmm,
Blazing Saddles. It's just craziness.
yeah,
Dom
yeah,
DeLuise shows up. Everything. You're just like, what is happening?
right. Now I will say there, and I always tend to notice this whenever I'm watching a comedy. Um, is like like what kind of movie is this? This is a comedy. I should be laughing. There were points where, for an extended period of time, uh, I wasn't laughing, and that's not because there weren't jokes being said. I just think that there were some jokes that, like,
You
I don't
gotta
know,
remember this is was it 70s
right,
movie, I would
right,
assume, that
exactly.
many of
So
these jokes have already people have copied these jokes, they've done them 100 times, you've heard these jokes, or the jokes are referencing things you don't know about because you weren't in the 70s. And
exactly.
so yeah, that's going to happen with anything. You know,
Oh
you'll be
yeah,
watching like an old Looney Tune cartoon, they reference something, you're like, I have no clue what I'm sure that was funny in the 1930s. I have no clue what you're talking about.
yeah. Well, and there was one. I can't remember what it was, but like I don't know why, but initially I took it like completely straight. I genuinely can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But one thing that I did think was funny um, was when whenever he'd stick his head out and talk to the hangman.
Hmm.
Um, the first time he pulls his head back in there and he hits his head, I'm like, I don't think he was actually supposed to hit his head there, but that's really funny. uh, but oh man, that hangman was really funny too. It was a really funny movie.
Yeah. So we heard they're doing this movie Blazing Samurai that's supposed to be a homage to Blazing Saddles. I don't see how this could be. And I was trying to find a trailer of it. I really couldn't find any trailers. Just some weird preview scenes
Yeah.
that didn't look great. I don't know what that it's going to be. I don't see how you could make that. I don't know in this day of age. So
Yeah. Have you seen the cast list? I actually have the cast list in front of me, and it's a weird one.
I know Mel Brooks and one of not John Cena, Michael Sarah or something.
Michael Cera, he's got top billing, so I assume that he's the main character.
Yeah.
Then you've got this is funny. You got Samuel L. Jackson as a character named Jimbo.
Okay.
Ricky Gervais, and I know I've always mispronounced this character, not this character, this actor's name wrong, but he's the actor who was in Guardians of the Galaxy, like the first one, and it's like Star
Oh,
Lord. Yeah, who?
he played Koroff or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna. Okay, here we go. Here we go. We're gonna butcher this name right now. Uh, Jimon
Jimon Hunsu.
Hunsu.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. Um,
Yeah.
George Takei, Michelle Yeoh, Gabriel Iglesias.
Yeah.
Uh,
And this is not an animation company I'm familiar with, so it could just be a total mess. You know, we saw this happen before with like Food Fight, where they got all these big name stars, and then it was just this horrible animation studio, and they just ruined it.
mhm.
So we could be seeing something very similar here. I don't know.
Annie Venture. I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So we'll see. If you don't know what Food Fight is, you should look up some YouTube videos about that. That is insanity. But
Oh my gosh,
it,
I've successfully never seen a single clip of Food Fight. Like I've heard about it.
yeah.
I've seen the trailers, and that's all I needed from that
Yeah.
movie.
So if you've never checked out Blazing Saddles, um, I would recommend checking it out. If you get easily offended, probably skip it. But
Yeah,
uh,
I as well recommend it. It felt like if Tarantino just decided to make a straight up comedy.
yeah. All right, cool. So next week is Caleb's chance to pick a movie for me to watch. So what movie do you have for me?
So I wanted to keep this comedy train going, and we talk about this movie a lot for you not having ever seen it.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so I would like you, and it's on Netflix. And so if anyone else wants to join in, if you've never seen it, I want you to watch The Other Guys. Um, Now, The Other Guys, not to be confused with The Nice Guys. The Other Guys is the one with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. Um,
And the only part I have seen of this movie is the first 5 minutes, and it
yeah.
is. I think it's probably the funniest 5 minutes in movie history.
Oh my god,
I
it's
I
so
laugh
funny.
every single time I watch this clip. Laugh hard, like it's hilarious. It's way up there, and I quote the line "aim for the bushes" all the time.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
it is
yeah,
ridiculous, and I don't want to
yeah,
spoil it if you haven't seen it. But please check out the
yeah.
opening scene. The other guys, it is hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, like I say it at any point when, like, you know how at the beginning of like Fortnite or Warzone, I don't play Fortnite, but I have played Warzone, where you have to like, you have to like
Parachute,
you have to parachute and drop. I always at the beginning of the match I got to say aim for the bushes.
right?
But yeah, I'm excited for you actually because um aim for the bushes is probably one of the funnier things in that movie, but there and I think I may have shown you the tuna and the lion scene as well.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
did show it to me. Yeah,
Um, but yeah, like that movie, there's just so much going on. I think so. It's actually my best friend Ben's favorite comedy of all time. So like it'll be one of those where he'll pull it up like on Netflix. It'll just pop up and he'll watch it. So I'm sure he'll appreciate us discussing the other guys next week.
yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I have not seen it. I have this weird thing. Well, I'll watch some movies and I'll watch the opening scene and go, "Well, that was great. The movie's not going to get greater. I'm done." I've done that with Watchmen, like the opening credits. I've done that with, I think it's the Wolverine, where the nuclear blast is going off. There's a couple movies where I've done that where I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." So this is one of those movies. So I'm looking forward. I really don't know what the rest of the movie is really about. So this will be interesting. So
Yeah.
that's our show for the night. We hope you've enjoyed it. Please comment below if there's any other MCU missed opportunities that we missed. I'm sure there's more. We've had several movies. I'm sure there's just something we totally forgot about. Um, I guess one that I'll just throw out there real quick is they seem to kill off characters really quick. They've gotten
Yeah.
better about it, but there for a while there, they would just kill off villains as quick as possible or waste actors on bit roles. And you're like, oh, I really wish they'd used that actor in a bigger part.
Carl Urban.
Yeah. So, but anyways, if you've got any of those, please listen to the comments. We'd love to hear them. And we'll be back here next week, 6 o'clock Eastern, right here on YouTube. Hope to talk to you then.
See you guys.
Bye.